Hi, welcome. I'm going to do a quick mid-July reading for the collective. I felt that it was the right time to do this. And um, it's been a really crazy, busy couple of, uh, it's been a crazy month for me, but I am adapting to a very, very different schedule right now. And so this is actually doing me an enormous amount of benefit to be able to be of service to us as a collective, a small group of people that tune into these readings when they come. Um, because I think we all need it. Let's be honest. Things are very, very intense at the moment. Um, and in the next couple of days, we have some Mars action that is in conjunction with Uranus, so it's not necessarily that it isn't edifying, it is, but it could come with a certain degree of spontaneity, a certain degree of unexpectedness, and a potential for, well, just a little bit too much electricity in our endeavors, and that could put us at risk of being taken by surprise. That's all, really. I guess that's all I really want to say about that. I don't really know how it will manifest on the microcosmic level. I think that we've already seen how it can manifest on another level with certain unfortunate political um, tumult that we've seen certainly in the United States and also in recent times in European elections and things, lots of upsets, lots of shifts, lots of well, as above, so below. So we have to remember that whatever is happening on that level is also happening within us, right? So we've got our own election swings and assassination attempts and whatever else, and we have to navigate life in that capacity, right? So tricky times for everyone. Hopefully, some good stuff is coming about for you, but I think it would be remiss of me to pretend that we're not in the midst of massive upheavals and transformations. We also have a Chiron square with the sun on Monday coming up. I mean, as I said, I'm recording this mid-July, so depending on when you watch it, this may have already passed. But of course, this energy can last and come about a few days, a week before, and last, and that is sort of prepping us for the full moon, which is a blue moon, the second full moon in Capricorn on the 21st, 22nd, depending on where you are in the world. And it's the resolution of basically all the energy that we've been feeling for the last, what will then have been 28 days, right? So think about that cycle in your life. Think about what came about. I think that obviously it depends based upon your astral chart as to which houses are going to be activated. But for me, I could say, for example, there's been a lot of issues around self-worth, worth in general. And when I say, I don't mean in the Taurian sense of self-worth, I mean more in what my worth is in society. What are the compromises that have to be made? What is of value to me? What is of value in life? What is important to us in life? What kind of sacrifices are we willing to make? How secure are we in our own value? Um, that might help protect us against other people deciding our value. These are, sorry, I'm just adjusting this a little bit. I'm recording this using my iPhone, so unfortunately it's way higher definition, so you can see every little pore on my face. Um, but yeah, the good thing is that it sort of offers resolution with that full moon. So that's coming up. Uh, the good things, aside from that full moon being a nice resolution, um, in terms of our emotional flow, is that Venus is in Leo, taking us along into Leo season. And of course, Venus has now emerged from the underworld and is finally elevating us back into a place of external, what's the word? Well, just manifestation of all things Venusian. So I don't know what that means for you. I am a Taurus rising, so for me, I have very strong Venus energy in my chart, and it manifests for me about around um, pleasure, what pleasure is, what indulgences are. Sorry, I just have to keep doing this because I need to just sit still basically. Um, how we value ourselves, how we see ourselves um, physically, um, um, externally, how we project ourselves in other people's eyes, how we feel that we're perceived. Are we deserving? Are we um, do we feel received? And if we don't, is how we receive ourselves enough? These are all matters for contemplation. Venus in Leo, from my understanding and my experience, is really, as Venus emerges from the underworld, we reemerge as an empowered um, manifestation. We emerge as a creature of um, self-confidence and poise and um, richness in whichever way richness reveals itself for you. So those are some of the astrological aspects that I felt were important to talk about. Obviously, we are still in Cancer season, and we still have another week of Cancer season. And so that means that we are resolving our emotional attachments that pertain to the mother. That can be Mother Earth as much as it can be your own mother. Um, and hopefully you're feeling a sense of alignment and warmth towards the mother archetype, because that is really what the synthesis of the third decan of Cancer is all about. Um, I know, for example, when I look back on my own life 5 years ago, when I had a very severe episode in my life that ended up as a complete shutdown of my nervous system. So much of that was around a mother wound. I love my mother very much, and my mother has been a very, very important part of my life. And I hope to have her for a lot longer in my life. But my rapport and my view of my expectation and my alignment had to go through a lot of trauma processing. And so cancer season that year was extremely traumatic for me. And I was living out abandonment wounds. And I transferred a lot of my needs onto my sister, who I was temporarily living with at the time, who was, kind of playing out a version of the mother. So I'm not. I mean, I'm oversharing right now, and I'm not going to share anymore because that's highly personal. And those are very important times in my life and experiences. But at the same time, it's just an example of how that maternal Cancerian energy can really form the arc of the development of the archetype into manifestation and consequences that can drive our entire lives and really take us on a very, very long road of illusion and sometimes pain and all kinds of other um, discomforts of the soul. So, and of course, the mother archetype is so important to all of us. The father archetype too. In my case, mostly by absence. So, um, and I suppose the Capricorn season is also an intense one sometimes. So anyway, I am oversharing about myself. I really didn't mean to go down that kind of a road. It was mostly really about showing how these astrological energies can really um, manifest for us in the pragmatic sense of our personal um, experiences. So I'm gonna shut up and get into our reading. Very strong energy in this reading around uh, surrender. I'm not sure how this is going to work because I'll just put it like that. Surrender. I have my background blur on, so it messes with the cards, and I apologize for that. I can release my need to control, and I do want to read from the Soul Journey Oracle book just so that we get a good sense, because it really is the flavor of the entire reading, I think. You need to understand the distinction between power and control. You have the power of internal control, but very little external control over people or situations. The majority of your external control is through the power of influence. You can lead by example. Every soul has its own unique path, and it's not your job to dictate it. Giving advice or direction in a compassionate manner is the way to go. Your soul, too, has a path, and you possess the power to control it, but you must surrender the illusion that you have control over another. Remember that this is a process, and from time to time, your ego will rise up and demand that things be the way that they should be. Envision a hot air balloon being loaded up with all of the things you think you need to control and let them ride away in the balloon. You'll be surprised to find that when you release the energy of control and accept the energy of surrender, doors will open that you've never expected, because you have now given the universe space in which to materialize what is needed for your highest soul growth. And that is something that I pray for every day, or prayer is a word I choose to use, but you might um, communicate in a different way with your higher powers, higher self, whatever you want to call it. And I always pray that my experiences serve a higher purpose and enable me to show up as my best self. And I'm going through a huge learning curve right now, and I don't know how long the learning curve will last or how long the current circumstances of my life will last. It's all kind of in flux, and I kind of have to be, I have to surrender um, because I have a lot of frustrations around my feelings about work, about time management, about ego, and all of that, about having had a long sabbatical that put me in a position where I became very spoiled in certain ways. Also went through some pretty dark, isolating, alienated times, but I had full sovereignty over my how I spent my time, and of course now that I am working again, it's very much the opposite, and that's really why I'm happy to be here doing this, because it really does feel like a period of time that I can give myself and us to to experience something outside of my service to my employers. Um, and it's so hard to sustain a sense of, as soon as the ego comes in, it becomes about what's unfair, denigration. Oh, well, why am I having to do this? And why is this like this? And blah, blah, blah. And it all becomes so pointless because it's just my own mirroring of something that I have yet to learn more about in myself. Why do I have these responses? Why do I have such a resistance to because I enjoy working hard. It's not that I'm averse to hard work at all, but I do have a stubbornness about the idea of, um, well, perhaps I have unrealistic expectations of what I'm entitled to. I don't know. It's these are inner questions, right? But again, very much in alignment with the Capricorn full moon. So I imagine I will have some release around emotions and thoughts when it comes to authority structures and how they affect my ego. Um, we got 4 spirit animal oracle cards that came out. I'm only going to read one of them, but the primary message of them flows. So I guess I'll start by reading the one that came out first, which is, oh dear, how do I do this? How am I gonna, can you see that? Yeah, I guess you can see that there. Um, Moth Spirit, Surrender Now. But we also got Starfish, Open to Infinite Possibility, Trust the Magic, Raven Spirit, oh, White Raven Spirit. And finally, and I do think this is very much in alignment with that, Mars Uranus conjunction, Dear Spirit, bring a gentle touch. So those are our messages from the Spirit Animal Oracle deck, but I'm going to read Moth Spirit to us. Moth Spirit asks, what is guiding you right now? Are you in alignment with Spirit or pursuing something or someone with so much tenacity that it has become a compulsion or an addiction? Are you so intoxicated by a potential relationship or opportunity that you can't think straight? Hard work and dedication are virtues, and love, of course, is a beautiful thing. I have to put that down. However, when Moth Spirit appears, it is time to consider if you have gone over the edge in a relentless pursuit. Workaholism, overeating, perfectionism, or addiction to certainty, or even to a person, may be your current vice. The form of your addiction does not matter so much as awareness of the consequences of remaining persistent when moderation is needed. Let go of your excessive energy by channeling it in more than one direction. The fire burns hot, and you do not want to be engulfed by your passion to the exclusion of all other pursuits that matter to you. Now is a time for surrender and radical acceptance so that your drive does not cause you to flee or to fight. Spirit wants you to release your need for certainty and control so that you can relax into a more balanced way of using your moth spirit energy. Banish the shoulds and musts so that you can enjoy what is as you allow for what might be. And I obviously can relate to that very much because I've been very much out of alignment since I started working, and I haven't had the time for everything that I would like to do in terms of spiritual nurture. I do make time for it, but I also am compromising all the time, and I understand that in order for that to any of the things that I have in my life right now to work for me, I have to be more mindful of the spiritual flow in my life and not go back into a place of separatism between the two. It's like, okay, here's what I do professionally, and that consumes 11 hours of my day. And then here is my spirituality separate. It's like it has to emerge in everything that I do. And that's very hard to do because I don't do a job that is particularly spiritual. And I work in environments where there's a lot of wealth, which means that a lot of the lifestyle of the wealthy, as my experience would dictate, is not particularly profound in the spiritual sense. The spoils of life tend to, well, they give ample room to play. And not that there's anything wrong with playing, but you can play with the devil or you can play with an angel, right? So I'll leave it at that. I'm going to go over our tarot cards and then I will read our White Light Oracle card to end because it will come with a little ritual. So let's do this. So we got some very determined cards. Where we start is with the Judgment card. So um, something being brought about in our lives right now or in the recent past that is very much divinely purposed, because whatever I read the Judgment card as being something that's been divinely brought into our lives, it can be of great benefit. We might not always see the great benefit of it because it may simply be the path towards the next big life lesson. Um, and it was clarified by the Two of Wands. So this is something that required decision, that required choosing a path, one path over another. And this choice radically alters the destination. And it comes with the Judgment card, which is a rebirth energy. So it comes with a divine benediction to it. But at the same time, it's important to remember that, you know, God universe works in mysterious ways sometimes, and that's something that we well, it's better to know that you have blessings in disguise rather than the devil in disguise. And I hate to sound so manichaeistic is what I wanted to say, not Machiavellian. But you know, just with this separation of light and dark and good and bad, and you know, angels and devils. These are all constructs, obviously, because they both kind of exist within us and within our lives. But with spiritual grounding and empowerment, obviously we make better decisions, and we can be more accepting, surrender to what is on offer, knowing that it is divinely purposed and that there's great wealth in it for us as human beings, having, you know, spiritual beings having a human experience. You know, this is not meant to be a life of pure material comfort pursuit, as much as our egos are so invested in that, and we don't know how to perceive life in any other way. It's always what seems to feel like it's either giving us security, and when it does give us the security, then we start to feel as though we're missing something else. That's the nature of that pursuit. And when we don't have enough, we feel in lack, right? So the you can't win basically from a spiritual perspective unless you are always in alignment with your soul purpose, and that the soul purpose is not a linear, hierarchical pursuit or game. You know, it's the accumulation and assimilation of constant challenges to never allow us to settle into the status quo, to never allow us to settle into thinking that we know how things should be, and we know why things have been the way that they are or were. You know, I mean, something could have happened to you 30 years ago, and you still may be scratching your head trying to figure out why it happened. But it happened for a reason, and one day that will be revealed. It will just be a part of something. You may not even acknowledge it or know it in the moment, but it's the jigsaw puzzle, you know, is always being put together. And the way I look at it is, it's not a jigsaw puzzle like we have in real life that we buy from Haribo or whatever. Not Haribo, they make candy. It's the brand that makes, I can't even remember. But anyway, MB, all those companies that like used to make jigsaw puzzles, I don't know whether they still do. But you know, it's almost like it's more like a mushroom or a fungi. It's like the puzzle just continues to grow infinitely for as long as we're in this flesh body, to have new experiences. And you know, I think all of us make the mistake of you know, I mean, it's not a mistake because I mean, none of us wants to feel bad, right? You know, it sucks to be riddled with anxiety or stress or poverty consciousness or yeah, just any kind of feeling of lack or imbalance. You know, it's very uncomfortable, but it's always an invitation to um, learn why we feel that way, and the tiny steps that we can take towards resolving them or better understanding ourselves, you know, have huge blossoms later down the line, and that's what keeps us going, despite the complexity of the journey. We then move into what is happening in our current circumstances. So when you receive this, you will be in this energy. And we had these two cards came out. Of course, you can't really see the two cards. I don't know if you can see that because I've got the camera blocking it, but you have the Fool and the Two of Cups. Now, this is all about mirrors, new mirrors in our life. So again, when we had that judgment, um, with the decision around the Two of Wands, there was a pivot. It was like a fork in the road, and we made a decision to go down a certain path, which then opened us up to our new reality, our new dimensionality, our new experience of life. And for some people, it may be all hunky dory, amazing, beautiful things that are coming about. For others, I mean, I feel like in my life, I'm always like, nothing's ever black and white. And I'm always like, okay, well, I'm, I've secured like a good salary, but do I like anything about my role? And then it's like, well, it depends on how I show up. It depends on how I experience things. It depends on how personal I make things. Um, depends on how much I use my maturity emotionally to detach and to have quiet boundaries within myself around things rather than defining myself entirely by the things that I don't like. And I say this in first person. This applies to all of us. This is how we create our experiences. So that Two of Cups with the Fool is an invitation for us to, with this full moon in Cancer, release. I guess that's what all of this is, because that does come from the mother archetype, how we are mirrored from when we're first babies, and the peekaboo um, uh, syndrome with young infants, babies, where you know it's important that we establish that sense of security with our mother, like the idea that there's, even though a baby, when you cover their eyes, they don't they think that you're gone. If they can't see you, they think that you're gone. So the peekaboo process is basically the process of showing a baby that even though they can't see you, you're still there, and that secures you as a human being for life if you have that properly in, instilled in you. And so those are the mirrors. That's the very first idea of the mirror. And I mean, of course, I know after that, then you watch young children when they first encounter their reflection in the mirror too. But it's like I'm meaning more the human in it's the intuitive self that senses the presence even in the absence, right? So in the visual absence. So um this is how we develop our mirrors. And of course, if we don't have good foundations with those mirror establishments, then we probably do tend to use our projections in a negative way. And then of course we build more and more experiences like that compound our beliefs, so that we become more and more stubborn and anchored in our idea that the other person is this and that. And that's how we end up with ridiculous political divides that lead to civil wars and separations and divorces and broken families and um, arch nemesis, all these types of ridiculous concepts that are all built around projection. So we are having a massive reset in the projection uh, realm process. And it came clarified by the star, which only confirms this further, because this is a true blessing. In other words, even if what you are doing now or what you do next is not success, or it's not what you end up doing in the long term, how you experience it and how you experience the changes and what you're going to do with the experience and where you go next will never be the same as it was before, because your mirrors have changed. And there is an element of the importance of surrender in that too, because when we surrender, we don't need the defenses of projection, right? We can accept the other exactly as he or she is and how he or she wants to appear, and be completely unthreatened by it, and not look at it as like, how dare they do this? How dare they not see that I am valuable too, or whatever it may be. I'm projecting right now because apparently, well, you can imagine probably from having observed me that you know, I'm a weird paradox of self confidence and self doubt, and I am at that place in my life where I understand that there's no room for the self doubt anymore. There's just room for acceptance and surrender, because the rest of it has gotten me in nothing but trouble, you know? And I have a richness of experience, but I don't have a richness of life to show for that, because I am relatively alone in my life as a result of that, because all of the defense mechanisms of my mirroring really made my world get much smaller. And I know that this is a relatively universal concept, particularly for people who are interested in spiritual awakening and spiritual evolution and esotericism, because we have that commonality of having been very, very sensitive human beings, um, highly intuitive and highly sensitive to energy, and therefore our projections were much more easily warped as a result of feeling the level of pain that we felt emotionally as a result of those things. So where does this take us? Well, again, the confirmation is in the cards. We have the Eight of Cups as the principal card. So what are we walking away from? Those 8 cups that have not served us. Those are 8 projections. Those are 8 emotional pillars that we have built into our Justice League of the um, the empire of whoever you are, in my case, Alex. And those pillars are holding up a temple of shit. Well, I shouldn't be that harsh, of things that no longer serve me, because they were all based around empire, the masculine. So instead, we have the Empress coming in. So that is where the empire is within us, in our heart, not in our heads, not in our identity. And it is being torn down by the tower. So goodbye, empire. I mean, we have the Fool there, so we don't really need a physical empire when we have the Fool. And when we have healthy mirrors, and when we're coming from a judgment, a divine judgment, because what happens is we carry these 2 elements, which is what the clarifiers are, within us as balance. We have the Queen of Pentacles and the King of Wands. This is self-confidence, self-reliance, nurture, inspiration within us. We are the empire. It's not all this defining our identity by what we do and how much money we have and where we live and who we know and what clothes we wear. And, I mean, listen, it's all crumbling in front of our very eyes. I mean, can you even afford to think that way anymore? I mean, have you seen how ridiculously expensive everything is? It's absurd. It's not even, doesn't even matter if you can afford it or not. If you have half a brain, you're going to be like, even if I can afford this, why would I want to buy it? I had to buy some new shirts for work, and I didn't really need to buy them. I just, every time I ever start a new job or whatever, I always feel like I need some kind of new thing. And then I usually end up in places where it really doesn't matter what the fuck I look like. I could probably wear a t-shirt and jeans. Um, well, maybe not quite, but close enough. And you know, looking at clothing stores and brands and trying to be, contemporary and whatever else, and you're just looking at things and it's just like, oh my God, this, a shirt that costs $400, a jacket that costs $1,200, and these are like, high street prices, like department store prices. We're not talking about like luxury goods. And it's just like, it's so fucking stupid, you know? I mean, I like to eat well, so I buy a lot of fresh produce and fruit, like fruit, vegetables, and, like minimal, um, toxic ingredients in the breads that I like and things like that. I like things to be fresh as much as possible, clean. Um, and I don't mind spending money on that, but I'm still aware of how, I'll stop using the F word, but how absurd it is to be spending that kind of money all the time. I mean, everything is like that. And so there's, anybody that's still buying into this stupid mirror system is probably feeling deeply uncomfortable at this point, or so delusional that they don't even have a connection to their soul. So leave it to them. We have better things to do, and let's own it. So on that note, I'm going to end with our white light oracle card for the rest of July. Sacred Star. She's got her tits out. 11. 11. These cards were very beneficial to me in recent months when I was doing my morning rituals, which I don't really have as much time for nowadays. But excuse me, you can see why I don't have much time for it because I need more sleep. But they're really beautiful cards. You have to be patient and you have to invest in the message. So I'm going to read. I know it's a lot, but just close your eyes and listen if you have the patience. Your inner and outer scars are marks of your soul's courage. They are signs of strength and survival, of your willingness to be alive. The sacred scar speaks of that which once caused pain, being transformed into higher knowledge and inner power. Trauma shall be transformed through spiritual initiation, leading you from woundedness to wisdom. That's an Eight of Cups message, if there ever was one, and a judgment message. You have nothing to be ashamed of. You can trust your healing process and in the hidden higher purpose behind things happening as they do. You are strong and you shall flourish on all levels. Some experiences are harder to weather. Even when our intention is to trust, going through a challenging time is likely to give rise to suffering. Considering the mother eagle raising her precious eaglets in the sanctuary of a meticulously padded and fiercely defended nest, They know safety and comfort until one day the mother, who provided unceasing nurturance, abruptly pushes them out of the nest and into the air. She knows this is how they will learn that they can fly. I mean, how on the nose is this, having spoken of the Cancer energy and the mother and all these things, and mirrors is the result. So let's go, Spirit. For the eaglet, there is not yet any such knowledge. Disoriented and disturbed, but eventually innate instincts overtake confusion, and those brave little eaglets begin to flap their fledgling wings during the plummet from the nest. They have learned the purpose of the tough lesson and grown. The trauma of disruption became their initiation into power. So that's the surrender, right? You don't have to enjoy the process of growth, but you can always trust it has your best interests at heart. That's the judgment. See, it's all perfect. Sorry, I shouldn't have to tell you that. It's more for me that I'm like, yes, it feels good when things actually come through in the messages beyond just the intuitive side, So I am patting myself on the back, even if it's embarrassing. However, do not confuse negative, especially traumatic experiences, as something Spirit has inflicted upon you. Spirit would love your growth to happen in the most joyful and peaceful ways possible. As your relationship to Spirit heals and strengthens, this can be the way you grow more often than not. However, Spirit also knows that sometimes we are to move through intense experiences before we can gain access to the light. Those experiences can teach us things only those who have truly suffered and brought their suffering to consciousness and healing can know. The lessons learned include compassion, wisdom, strength, and fearlessness, faith in Spirit and in humanity, and the recognition of the challenges of awakening while having trust in the ultimate power of light. Such a soul becomes only truly badass and divine as a human being, a powerful healer, and a light bearer in this world. The Oracle of Sacred Scar lets you know that your greatest struggles are the pathway to your potential. I just said that, right? You are not being punished. Those circumstances have not been imposed upon you by Spirit, but Spirit will work with you to free you from negativities and bring you into the light, stimulating the sacred alchemical wisdom within your heart that knows how to distill goodness, grace, and healing from even the most terrible experiences. If you are deep in suffering now, know that Spirit is with you, loving you, and bringing you this oracle. You shall heal. Do not give up. Proceed until you are exactly where you most want to be. You have the inner spirit to ensure even a negative experience will only cause positive growth in you and your life. Healing process. Place your hand on your heart. Take a deep and calming breath in and out and repeat 3 times. Read or say the following aloud if possible, or listen. I am a divine soul on a sacred journey. The wounds that are healing are where the light is most active within me. When pain gets my attention, it is the divine wisdom within asking me to notice and learn something helpful and compassionate. My scars are signs of wisdom gained. The light can and will assist me in transforming even the most difficult struggles into holy paths of grace. Healing shall manifest completely, generously, and lovingly, according to divine timing, for the spiritual benefit of all beings. I am grateful, strong, and blessed. Rest and reflect. Obviously, I can't do that with you. Are there issues you believe you cannot heal? Can you hand them over to spirit with the belief that they can and will be healed? Repeat the above statement if you feel it would help you anchor confidence and trust in your heart and mind. Then ground and replenish and hydrate yourself, and you will have completed your healing process. So, I offer that to you. Something that we could do all the time, anytime, right? Very important. I hope this was helpful. I think it was a lovely little mid-month summary of the energy. I will try to be back at the beginning of August, end of July, somewhere around then. In the meantime, I wish you many blessings, lots of love and peace, and yeah, hang in there. Be your best self.